ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ॐ नमो भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
Om Namo Bhagavate
ॐ
Vasudevaya.
नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayit Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtuki. Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, one should first offer one's respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishis, the supermost human beings, unto the goddess of learning, Mother Saraswati, and unto the author, Srila Vyasadeva. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart becomes almost completely destroyed, and devotional service becomes established within one's heart as an irrevocable fact. We're continuing our study of the third canto, chapter 3, text number, we are now text 14. This is the subject matter of Krishna's pastimes outside of Vrindavan. Yan bhuvoyam shapi torubaro
कियान् भुवोऽयं शपितोरुभारो
yadrona bhishmarjuna bhimamulai
यद्रोण भीष्मार्जुनभीममूलै
astadashaksha hiniko madam shayer
अष्टादशाक्षौ हिनिको मदंसे
Aste balam durvishaham yadunam.
आस्ते बलं दुर्विशहं यदूनाम्
Kiyan bhuya, kiyan bhuvoyam shapitorabaro.
कियान् भुवोऽयं शपितोरुभारो
Yadrona bhishmarjuna bhimamulai.
यद्रोण भीष्मार्जुनभीममूलै
Ashtadashakshar haniko maram shayer.
अष्टादशाक्षौ हिनिको मदंसे
Aste balam durvishaham yadunam.
आस्ते बलं दुर्विशहं यदूनाम्
Kiyan bhuvoyam shapitorobaro.
कियान् भुवोऽयं शपितोरुभारो
Yadrona bhishmarjuna bhimamulai.
यद्रोण भीष्मार्जुनभीममूलै
Ashtadashak shao hiniko maram shayer.
अष्टादशाक्षौ हिनिको मदंसे
Aste balam durvishaham yadunam.
आस्ते बलं दुर्विसहं यदूनाम्
Let's start with the devotees in the temple room, and then we'll go to those online. Kiyan bhuvoyam shapitaraburo. Madrona bhishmarjuna bhimamulai. Shtadashaka sharikiniko maram shayer. Aste balam durvishaham yadunam. Yan bhuvoyam shapitaraburo. Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai. Ashtadashaka Haniko Maramshaye. Aste Balam Durvishaham Yadunam. Yan Bhuvoyam Shapitarabharu. Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai. Shtadashaka Haniko Maramshaye. Ashte Balam Durvishaham Yaduna. Kiyan Bhuvoyam Shapitarabharu. Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai. Ashtadaksha Nihiko Maramshaye. Aste Balam Durvishaham Yaduna. Yan Bhuvoyam Shapitarabharu. Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai. Astadashaka Haniko Maramshaye. Aste Balam Durvishaham Yadunam. Yan Bhuvoyam Shapiparabaru. Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai. Ashtadashakya Haniko Maramshaye. Asta Balam. Devotees online?
कियान् भुवोऽयं शपितोरुभारो
Uyoyam Shapitorabaro.
यद्रोन भीष्मार्जुन भीममूले
Adrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai.
अष्टादशाक्षौ हिनिको मदंशे
Astadakshaka Haniko Maramshaye.
आस्ते बलं दुर्विसहं यदूनाम्
Aste Balam Durvishaham Yadunam.
इयान् भुवोऽयं क्षपितोरुबारो
Yan Bhuvoyam Shapiporabaro.
यद्रो भीष्मार्जुन भीममूलै
Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai.
अष्टादशाक्षौहिणिको मदंशे
Ashtadashaka Hiniko Maramshaye.
हस्ते बलं दुर्विषहं यदूनाम्
Aste Balam Durvishaham Yadunam.
कृष्ण
Hare Hare Krishna. Kiyan bhuvo ayam shapito rubharo
Yan Bhuvoyam Shapitarabaro.
yadidrona bhishmarjuna bhima mulai
Yadrona Bhishmarjuna Bhimamulai.
astadasha chauhini ko madham shair aste palam durvisaham yadunam.
Aste Balam Durvishaham Yadunam.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, we'll move to the synonyms. Thank you, everybody, for your participation. We had a lot of participation today. Kian. What is this? Bhuva, of the earth. Ayam, this. Shapita, abated. Uro, very great. Bara, burden. Yat, which. Drona, Drona. Bhishma, Bhishma. Arjuna, Arjuna. Bhima, Bhima. Mulai, with the help. Ashtadasha, 18. Akshohinika, phalanxes of military strength. Vaid Srimad Bhagavatam 1:16-34. Mat Amshayai,
Regular coffee.
with my descendants. Aste, are still there. Balam, great strength. Dur Vishaham, unbearable. Yadunam, of the Yadu dynasty. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. After the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord said, the abatement of the earth's great burden, 18 Ashohinis, has now been effected with the help of Drona, Bhishma, Arjuna, and Bhima. But what is this? There is still the great strength of the Yadu dynasty, born of myself, which may be a more unbearable burden. Purport. It is a wrong theory that due to an increase in population, the world becomes overburdened, and therefore there are wars over annihilating processes. The earth is never overburdened. The heaviest mountains and the oceans on the face of this earth hold more living entities than there are human beings, and they are not overburdened. If a census were taken of all living beings on the surface of the earth, certainly it would be found that the number of humans is not even 5% of the total number of living beings. If the birth rate of human beings is increasing, if the birth rate of human beings is increasing, then the birth rate of other living beings is increasing proportionately. The birth rate of lower animals, beasts, aquatics, birds, etc., is far greater than that of the human beings. There is an adequate arrangement for food for all living beings, all over the earth, by the order of the Supreme Lord. And He can arrange more and more if there is actually disproportionate increase of living beings. Therefore, there is no question of an increase in population causing a burden. The earth became overburdened due to dharmaglani, or irregular discharge of the Lord's desire. The Lord appears on earth to curb the increase of miscreants and not the increase in population, as it is wrongly put forward by the mundane economist. When Lord Krishna appeared, there had been a sufficient increase in miscreants who had violated the desire of the Lord. The material creation is meant for fulfilling the desire of the Lord. And the desire is that the conditioned souls who are unfit to enter into the kingdom of God have a chance to improve their condition for entering. The entire process of the cosmic arrangement is intended just to give a chance to the conditioned souls to enter the kingdom of God. And there is an adequate arrangement for their maintenance by the nature of the Lord. Therefore, although there may be a great increase in population on the surface of the earth, if the people are exactly in line with God consciousness, and there are no miscreants, such a burden on the earth is a source of pleasure for her. There are two kinds of burdens. There is the burden of the beast and the burden of love. The burden of the beast is unbearable, but the burden of love is a source of pleasure. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti describes the burden of love very practically. He says that the burden of the husband of a young wife, he says that the burden of the husband on the young wife, the burden of the child on the lap of the mother, and the burden of wealth on the businessman, although actually burdens from the viewpoint of heaviness, are sources of pleasure. And in the absence of such burdensome objects, one may feel the burden of separation, which is heavier to bear than the actual burden of love. When Krishna referred to the burden of the Yadu dynasty on the earth, he referred to something different than the burden of the beast. The large number of family members born of Lord Krishna counted to some millions, and were certainly a great increase in the population of the earth. But because all of them were expansions of the Lord himself, by his transcendental plenary expansions, they were a source of great pleasure for the earth. When the Lord referred to them in connection with the burden on the earth, he had in mind their imminent disappearance from the earth. All the members of the family of Lord Krishna were incarnations of different demigods, and they were to disappear from the surface of the earth along with the Lord. When he referred to the unbearable heaviness on the earth in connection with the Yadu dynasty, he was referring to the burden of their separation. Srila Jiva Goswami confirms this inference. Om Aganatam Barandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Tirtha Swami Niti Namane Namaste Krishna Padaya Prabhupada Shritatmane Shri Gaura Karuna Shakti Bhakti Tirtha Iti Namane Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The verse again. After the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, the Lord said, the abatement of the earth's great burden, 18 Akshohinis, has now been effected with the help of Drona, Bhishma, Arjuna, and Bhima. But what is this? There is still a great strength of the Yadu dynasty, born of myself, which may be a more unbearable burden. So, very interesting today. This term, Akshohini, it refers to the battle arrangement or an army, the size of an army. If you look, the definition of the word Akshohini refers to a military phalanx consisting of 21,870 chariots and elephants, 109,350 infantry soldiers, and 65,610 horses. An exact description is given in the Mahabharata Adi Parva second chapter. It gets into how it's all calculated. But this gave a very large burden on Mother Bhumi. There were many military soldiers, kings, proprietors, and Krishna came to annihilate them. Pratanaya sarunam vinashayata duskritam dharma samstarpanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To annihilate the miscreants is one of Krishna's missions for coming. Why? Because he wants to clear the way for dharma to take place. As Krishna will touch on it a little bit later in the talk, because Krishna wants this place, this material world as it was designed, as a place where we can come back home and go back to Godhead. So anything that is disrupting that goal, Krishna personally comes and rearranges the situation to make it favorable. It's interesting how Srila Prabhupada starts off in the purport about when Krishna comes to remove a population from this earth, it's to remove those that are causing troublesome to the earth. That it's not a population that is causing a burden to the earth, but it is the consciousness of a certain group of population which is causing a burden. So sometimes it's talked about that the earth is being overpopulated with human beings. And Srila Prabhupada is speaking out against that. And we can do our own analysis of this. A couple of weeks ago, I drove out to New Vrindavan. And on the way to New Vrindavan, all you see is nothing but land. I mean, just hundreds of miles of land. Some of it's farmland, some of it's not even farmland. Some of it is just open, vacant land. And this is just one strip. I can see maybe a quarter mile in one direction, a quarter mile in the opposite direction. But that extends for hundreds of miles going north and south. I was going east and west. And this is just one state. To think that, oh, we're just overpopulating. I mean, there's so much unoccupied land that exists throughout the whole countryside. Yes, when you come into a city and you have, a couple square miles and you have 1 million people packed within those square miles, you think, yeah, it's pretty dense. People are basically living almost on top of one another. But that was just by our design, the way in which society formed its living situation by bringing everybody closer through industry into a big city. But it doesn't mean that the earth is not able to hold the people that exist. There's also government programs put into place to take care of each other. In America, they have Social Security. They have Medicare. And this is to provide health benefits for the elderly. And Social Security is to provide some financial assistance for those that work throughout their life, so that in their retirement, the government gives them some basis of living. You actually pay into that as you work throughout your life. So when you listen to political talks, there's a big election that's coming up, and every election it always comes up is Social Security is going to run out, and there won't be any money for the elderly eventually. And then one candidate will say, well, I'm going to make sure that I fund Social Security to assure the elderly people that it won't come out. So this comes into the connection that the birth rate, if you have more people coming, if you have less people paying into it and more people who are going into their old age, then there won't be enough money to fund it. And then as the system goes on, Shishi Gornitai ki jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki jai, Shishi Radha Vihari ki jai. So therefore, we have to take a look at population control. Other countries have looked at population as a burden upon the country in terms of what they need to provide, in terms of schooling, in terms of safety, in terms of housing, etc. And they see, okay, we need to have population control. Thinking that the earth cannot handle it. But we know that from this, and just from our own observation, the earth is filled with land, unoccupied land. But it's the process in which we manage that land, which is what is limited. I want to talk about this concept of being overburdened. The topic of being burdened, and Srila comes up here. The abatement of the earth's great burden. So, as I just mentioned, the earth's great burden was to be able to support people who were actually doing great damage, people that were untruthful. I heard in a talk recently, I couldn't find the reference to it, but it was nice. I'll repeat it. It said, of all the burdens that is unbearable for the earth to bear, is that of a lie. You know, it's not a heavy weight. It's not a skyscraper, or it's not the oceans or the mountains. It's actually it's the mistreatment, or it's untruthfulness. It's deception. That is actually the heaviest burden that the earth has to bear. And then we have Krishna reflecting that, yes, we got rid of this through the battle of Kurukshetra. The battle of Kurukshetra was designed to free the earth of such a burden. And then he's reflecting that still we have the Yadu dynasty, which consists of millions of people. And they were born of myself, born of my family. And he says that may be an even more unbearable burden. And then Srila Prabhupada defines that there are two types of burdens: the burden of the beast and the burden of love. And then out of the burden of love, you also have the burden of separation. The burden of the beast, how do you think that that's defined? Or how would you look at the burden of the beast? What does that mean? The burden of the beast. What's it? Yes. Yes, it's the demonic, the people that are causing trouble, the people that are just the difficult people of this world, and you have to put up with them. You have to tolerate them. It's like it's the burden of the beast. So in the battle of Kurukshetra, there was the burden of the earth was putting up with the burden of the beast, you know, the miscreants who Krishna had designed to annihilate. And then there's the burden of love. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he defines it, and he gives 3 examples. He says it's the burden of the husband on the young wife, the burden of a child on the lap of the mother, and the burden of the wealth on a businessman. Although actual burdens from the viewpoint of heaviness are the source of pleasure. And in the absence of such burdensome objects, one may feel the burden of separation, which is heavier to bear than the actual burden of love. For those that are parents, we can understand that the burden of love, of being a parent, is quite heavy. It's quite involved. Your life gets completely centered around caring and taking care of the child. It often means a sacrifice of sleep. It means a sacrifice of personal time. You put aside your ambitions for the child's ambitions. The children, they make decisions. You may have expectations, and it causes such mental anguish. Why can't you just do this right? Why can't you just, follow instructions? And the childs, they make mistakes, and that is a burden that the parents have to endure. As they go through life and they go through education, the burden of making sure that they, graduate and they become productive members of society and they get married, to the right person, that they're financially stable. And oftentimes you're involved in the mental anguish of worrying. That is a burden of love. But time goes on. Time doesn't stop. So there comes a time when the nest becomes empty, when the children are no longer in your house, and their rooms are unoccupied. And then you reflect back, and you say, I wish I had those times back again. Even though they may have been stressful and painful, and at the time you just think, oh my gosh, I just wish this would all end. I just wish they would grow up and I can have my life. But that burden of separation starts to kick in. And that becomes even more and more heavy. So we can understand this burden that takes place in life. Spiritual master takes on a burden of love in training the disciple, training them in Krishna consciousness, guiding them throughout their mistakes, takes on the karma of the disciple. That is a burden of love. So when Krishna spoke of the burden of the Yadu dynasty, as explained in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says this is confirmed by Srila Jiva Goswami. He was forecasting out that at the end of the battle of Kurukshetra, it was soon time for him to wind up his earthly pastimes. And the Yadu dynasty was a benediction to Mother Earth because there were demigods. They represented righteousness. And they were about to leave this earth along with Lord Krishna. And Mother Earth was about to bear the burden of separation. And seeing that that would be unbearable for her. So in the same way, the burden of the beast, of demoniac, evil people, people that want to do harm, burdens the earth in a negative way. The burden of separation, of the auspiciousness. That burden of separation, Krishna is pointing out that she will have to suffer. So that makes us reflect. How can we make this burden less on Mother Earth? And how can we introduce the burden of love and joy into Mother Earth? The world needs, as we look at it today, the world needs Krishna consciousness. that auspiciousness, that benediction that the Yadu dynasty brought to this earth, which is being glorified here in this verse. That auspiciousness is revived by Lord Chaitanya in the Sankirtan movement. That is our purpose. And that brings Mother Earth great joy. At Srila Prabhupada, he talks about in the purport about, let me just read it real quick. The material creation is meant for fulfilling the desire of the Lord. And his desire is that the conditioned souls who are unfit to enter the kingdom of God have a chance to improve their conditions for entering. The entire process of the cosmic arrangement is intended just to give a chance for the conditioned souls to enter the kingdom of God. And so this theme of understanding what is the purpose of this material world is talked about regularly in Srila Prabhupada's books and purports. A month or so back, we spoke about this at a Sunday feast when we're studying the 11th chapter. And in that universal form, Arjuna asked the question, I see the battle of Kurukshetra taking place before me in your universal form. And all these soldiers are rushing into your mouth. And I see all these akshahinis being annihilated. All these demoniac people being annihilated. What is the purpose of this? Krishna, what is your plan? And he asked them. He says, O Lord of Lords, please tell me who you are. I want to know what your mission is. What are you doing? And so let me just read this real quickly. Krishna says, he says, time I am the great destroyer of the worlds, and I've come here to destroy all people, with the exception of you, the Pandavas. All the soldiers here on both sides will be slain. And then he tells Arjuna that, therefore get up and prepare to fight to win glory. Conquer your enemies and enjoy the flourishing kingdom. They are already put to death by my arrangement. And you, O Savasachi, can be but an instrument in the fight. And Srila Prabhupada talks about in the purport, in the same way of the purport today, he says, there's a specific plan being carried out in the material world. What is that plan? The cosmic manifestation is a chance for the conditioned souls to go back to Godhead, back home. As long as there's a domineering mentality which makes them try to lord it over material nature, they are conditioned. But anyone can understand the plan of the Supreme Lord and cultivate Krishna consciousness. That person is the most intelligent. The creation and destruction of the cosmic manifestation is under the superior guidance of God. And thus the battle of Kurukshetra was fought according to the plan of God. Arjuna was refusing to fight, but he was told that he should fight in accordance with the desire of the Supreme Lord. Then he would be happy. If one is in full Krishna consciousness and his life is devoted to the Lord's transcendental service, then he becomes perfect. And in that perfection, we give such pleasure and auspiciousness to the earth and the residents of this earth. And therefore, it's important to always keep the main thing, the main thing. The real thing, the real thing. We have to always come back to the point of what is our purpose? What is the plan here in this world? Now, Srila Prabhupada, he brought this Sankirtan movement to the West, and he had the desire for it to spread as Lord Chaitanya had wanted it to spread to every town and village. So when Srila Prabhupada created ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, he gave 7 purposes. He gave his plan on what he wanted to see fulfilled. It's good to go over these every once in a while. 1, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large, to educate all people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. Education, spiritual knowledge, to check imbalances in values in life. Those imbalances are great burdens of beasts that the earth has to endure and which society is suffering from, to achieve real unity and peace in this world. Number 2, to propagate a consciousness of Krishna as is revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam. 3, to bring the members of society together with each other and nearer to Krishna, the prime entity, and thus to develop the idea within the members and humanity at large that each soul is part and parcel of the quality of Godhead, Krishna. 4, to teach and encourage the Sankirtan movement of congregational chanting of the holy name of God, as revealed in the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 5, to erect for the members and society at large a holy place of transcendental pastimes dedicated to the personality of Krishna. 6, to bring the members closer together for the purpose of teaching a simpler and more natural way of life. And 7, with a view toward achieving the aforementioned purposes, to publish and distribute periodicals, magazines, books, and other writings. So the choice is ours. The choice of whether we want to become a burden to earth and to society, to our loved ones, to our family members. Or we want to be a burden of beast or a burden of love. In the world, it needs love. It needs compassionate people. It needs people that want to go out there and find those people that are seeking, that are looking for love, and bring them into a society which can show them love. This is the plan for us. Those that have taken shelter of the Hare Krishna movement, this is our purpose. This is our duty. This is our responsibility. And it may be a burden. It may be uncomfortable. It may be heavy sometimes. Sometimes you have to take a lot of unexpected things upon you. But we're just carrying that burden forward into future generations, as our predecessors have also taken that burden for the benefit and sake of others, to fulfill Krishna's mission, so that we can use this human form of life to go back home, back to God. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for listening. If anybody has any reflections or questions or comments, we can discuss this at this time. Hare Krishna. Anything? Yeah, that's the great question, right? So those online, Mother Golokananda Priya was asking about, why did the Yadu dynasty have to leave if they were such a benediction to the earth? Why did Krishna make them, leave the earth and then go in such a way of, they became intoxicated and started fighting with each other? Um, that's Krishna's mysterious way of everything is ultimately moving by Krishna's plan. And whenever there is the wrap up of pastimes, sometimes it's very sad because you don't want it to end. But yet the earthly pastimes, they all come to an end. The eternal pastimes don't come to an end, but the earthly pastimes do. And I know those that were demigods had to return to their services, as demigods. And sometimes we just can't quite understand why this happened like that. The same thing happens in modern day. We look at sometimes devotees, they've given their life fully to Krishna and the mission of Srila Prabhupada, 50, 60 years. And actually, sometimes the way they leave this planet, you think, oh my gosh, why did Krishna arrange for this person to leave this way? And then we look back on the situation of the Yadus, he arranged for them to leave that way as well. In the purport of this verse that said that everything in the cosmic or the one in the 11th chapter, it said everything in the cosmic creation is happening by the will of the Supreme Lord. So to truly understand the reason why, I personally don't know, but I do know that, they also probably, because they're wanting to come to this earth, was because Krishna was taking birth. And Krishna had ordered the demigods to also take birth, to assist. So being in separation from Krishna would have also probably been unbearable for them. The purpose had been fulfilled. They came for a particular reason. The Leela took place. Yeah. Yeah. But these things happen. I mean, recently I was thinking about that when I see more and more of these exalted devotees, getting ready to leave their bodies, and they're going through some physical pain and suffering, or sometimes mental capacities start to go, and you think, why is Krishna doing this? And then I started to, as we're going through this in the Bhagavatam, or in the Srimad Bhagavatam, you think of, well, even his own, kinsman, the Lord, had actually leave this world in a apparent inauspicious way. It wasn't auspicious. From the outside looking in, it could appear to be inauspicious. Why? Yeah, we can research that, and if anybody knows, they can speak upon it. But I don't have anything to add in there. Yeah, we can look it up in the Krishna book. May have it. Of course, those pastimes they ended after Srila Prabhupada stopped translating at that point toward the end of the 10th, the end of the 10th canto. Wasn't, but we can research that and see if there's a more suitable explanation. Thank you, Mataji, for that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
That Golokananda Mataji's question also I wanted to ask. Why of course, we depend on Krishna's mercy. But some elderly people and like me, we stay. We don't have any duties in the earth except bhakti. But a lot of younger people, they will leave the world. Why? I always think something, they have a lot of future, but they do. So that is one thing why Krishna does like that. So you might say that is karma. That is our past karma, and we come to the earth and we leave just like that. But sometimes, we feel little uh, these attachments in the earth, in a material world. We have attachments, family attachments, and other attachments. So leaving this world is very hard. But elderly people like me, we don't have any duties here. So younger people, they need to live, they had to live, and then they need to do a lot of things. But sometimes Krishna's, I don't know why Krishna does like that. There is a question I do have all the time. If I hear some younger people,
When you say Krishna does like that, do you mean where people leave their bodies at a young age or on time?
Yeah. And senior people, they say, oh, why I'm living here? I don't have anything. I did my duties and everything, whatever my family or something. And why am I living here?
Yeah.
So I just want to live and then not to be any burden to anybody.
Right. Yeah. Well, to understand life is life is not fair. We can't understand.
Yeah.
A young boy or young girl, they leave their body untimely, get a disease or accident. The way we understand it is that everything is ultimately sanctioned by the will of the Lord. It is their karma, in the sense that there are certain reactions that come from our past life. And these things don't happen by chance. And but you have to look at it in the continuum, not just one life. If you look at it as in one life, you'll see it only as being completely unfair and unjust. But if you look at it through the continuum of many, many, many lives, and the thing is, we don't have the ability to see back what took place in a previous life, or we don't have the foresight to be able to see what is going to happen in the future either. So we have to therefore see through the eyes of the scriptures and understand how one's actions and the reactions to one's actions, they unfold in the different components of karma. Karma in the seed form, karma in the fructified form. And then we also should understand that based on this, there's no guarantee for anything. There's no guarantee for safety. There's no guarantee for health. There's no guarantee for longevity. And therefore, we should seek that opportunity to engage in akarma. So there won't be any future material bodies. And that we want to engage in the process that can burn away our karma so that we can become free from our material designations. Of course, that process is pure devotional service to the Supreme Lord.
Yeah, you're right.
And then engage in that and share that information. The world needs to know this. The world
That's true.
suffering because they out of ignorance, because they don't know this. If people understood this and they knew this, so much of the suffering would go away. But we have this information. That's why I said we have to keep the main thing, the main thing, the real thing, the real thing. Sometimes we wind up, getting distracted But we're meant to give this experience to others. Now that we have received it, we are meant to now give this experience to others and facilitate their spiritual lives, and take on that burden. And whatever life we have left in us, we should always think that there's no guarantee that I'm going to live to old age. You know, so whatever life I have in me, whatever I can give, I should give it to Krishna.
Thank you.
You speak up a little bit. Oh yeah. Krishna, yeah. 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 Right. Yeah. Yeah, so there always has to be some reason, right? It just doesn't happen. So there's some reason. So Krishna facilitates that. They got cursed by the sages. Gandhari, she was very upset. Krishna, so she, the curse. So, of course, Krishna is above any, none of these things affect him. He can overcome any of that. But you need a reason, right? Right. You go, yeah. 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 Because if an atheist reads this, they'll say, oh, this is just, yeah, it's just a material activity. What is the difference between them and other people that fight? Right? They'll think like that. Thank you for finding that. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna devotees, again, happy Kartik. Today's the third day of Kartik. At the temple, we will be singing Damodarastakam after the evening arti. Evening arti is at 6:30, so following that around 7 o'clock, we offer our lamps and sing Damodarastakam. We'll give you a little darshan there of Mother Yashoda and baby Damodar. And we hope to see you all tomorrow, if not before, at the Sunday feast. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, can you give us the darshan of temple and deities? Is open yet?
I'm
Or
sorry,
closed?
can you repeat that, Mataji?
Deities, darshan of deities.
Sure. I can take darshan of the deities.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. Shri Yashoda Damodar.
Very good.
Shri Gaurnitai.
Jagannath. Baldev Sutra.
Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Rani. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Shri Radha Sharad Bihari ki.
Jai. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you for the darshan.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day.
You too.